Just yesterday, I had a patient say to me, "Hey doc, how did I get this macular degeneration?" And probably with a little more trepidation, I also hear this question very commonly. "Hey doc, will my kids get this?" So the cause of macular degeneration is multifactorial. There's many things that can lead to this. As we heard, diet plays a huge role. So make sure you go have your spinach salads later today. Sunlight is not our friend. Just like you can get sunburn on your skin, our eyes can be affected by sunlight, as we've heard today. Exercise is very important. Those who have higher BMIs or are obese are more likely to have macular degeneration. There's a reason we call it age-related macular degeneration. It comes on as we get older. So aging is one of the risk factors. As we know, smoking is horrible, not only for your eyes, but the rest of your body. So smoking can lead, or at least has a role in the development of macular degeneration. But genetics also does. So you can thank your ancestors. So when we think of macular degeneration, the two strongest risk factors for developing macular degeneration are aging and our genetics. There, look at that effect. Isn't that awesome? There we go. All right. So when I say genetics, what am I talking about? So genetics is the study of how traits are passed from parents to their children. And this can include things like hair color or eye color or even those little freckles you get on your nose. But it's also how diseases are passed through families. So each of us has genetic information. It's called our genetic code or a genome, and our genome is made up of what we call our DNA. So within our body, we have thousands and thousands of, probably billions, trillions of cells. And each one of these cells contains 46 chromosomes that contains over 2 meters of DNA. In that DNA, there are 30,000 different genes which code proteins that allow the functions of life to occur. So changes in these genes that make up our DNA can lead to the development of macular degeneration, or at least increase our risk of developing macular degeneration. And there was some suggestion of this when we look at the prevalence of macular degeneration amongst ethnicity. So those who are of European descent have a much higher risk of developing macular degeneration than other ethnic groups. For instance, Asians or Africans or Hispanics. And in Northern Europeans, that risk actually increases as we get older. Okay, twin studies has also given us some information. There's greater concordance in patients or in twins that are identical, meaning that their genetic makeup is extremely similar, than those that are non-identical. So what that means is the possibility of developing macular degeneration in twins that are identical is much more common than those who don't that are not identical. We also can see clustering in families. So if your aunt, your uncle, your mom, your brother has macular degeneration, it's more likely that you will too. So it's estimated that the risk of developing macular degeneration is 3-fold higher in people who have a family member, or first-degree family member with macular degeneration than those who don't. In 2005, we became aware of 2 genes, the CFH gene, which is located on chromosome 1, and the HTRA1 ARMS2 gene, which is located on chromosome 10. And it's now thought that these 2 genes, or these 2 gene loci, are accountable for about 50% of the heritability of macular degeneration. So what do these genes do? Well, the CFH gene stands for complement factor H gene. And the complement cascade is a mechanism within our immune system that helps our body fight pathogens and aging cells. However, when this system becomes deregulated or is impaired, it can lead to chronic inflammation. And we think that may contribute to the development of drusen, one of the characteristic changes that we see in dry macular degeneration. The ARMS2 gene, believe it or not, we're not exactly sure what it does. It plays a role in the extracellular matrix of the choroid, which is part of the eye, and it appears to affect the homeostasis of this area. So what we do know, though, is variations in this gene are associated with higher risk of developing wet macular degeneration. So since that time, many other genes and many other gene loci have been identified that appear to be associated with macular degeneration. So this means that this process is very complex. It's not just one gene or a few genes that can contribute to macular degeneration, but a whole slew of different genes that probably contribute. As a result of this, a very large consortium has been formed. It's called the International Age-Related Macular Degeneration Genomics Consortium. It's created a database that contains information on over 16,000 people who have macular degeneration, along with their genetic information, and about 17,000 age-matched controls. And when we compared those who have macular degeneration to those that don't, they were able to identify 52 independently associated common and rare variants that appear to be associated with macular degeneration. So as you can see, there's a lot out there that probably leads to macular degeneration that is in our genetic makeup. So what does this all mean? That's a lot of information. Well, we know that our genetic makeup does play a role in the development of macular degeneration, and that there are several genes or changes in our DNA that, if you have those are more associated with macular degeneration. But there's a lot more that needs to be known. Our scientific community and researchers are really working hard to better understand these genetic associations, and hopefully we will know more as we go forward yet. It is also very likely that there are genetic changes in our DNA that are associated with macular degeneration that we as researchers haven't even identified yet. So again, lots more to know. What we do know now is that, especially for these two genes that we've already identified, the CFH gene and the ARMS2 gene, they are definitely associated with more advanced macular degeneration and development of macular degeneration at an earlier age. So we also can see, as it was mentioned briefly before, that our genetic makeup probably interacts with our environment too. For instance, if you have a certain change in your genes or in your DNA and you're a smoker, you may be at more risk of developing worsening macular degeneration than another person who is a smoker but doesn't have that change in their DNA. So again, lots of different things to know. So what does the future of genetics in macular degeneration hold? Well, wouldn't it be great if we could understand who is more likely to develop macular degeneration? If I could go, hey, you in the 6th row, 3rd one in, you're at much higher risk of developing macular degeneration. That's wet. So I'm going to bring you in every month, and I'm going to watch you very closely. And then you over there, your risk profile is really low. So why don't you come back and see me in 2 years, and we'll just take a check. So that's the penultimate. It would really be nice to know if we could kind of stratify patients' risk based on their genetic makeup. It would also be great if we could understand how our genetic makeup interacts with things in our environment. Is there a genetic change that responds better to vitamins, for instance, or is really bad if you're a smoker? So kind of understanding those connections would be very important. And then wouldn't it be great if we could really predict prognosis and even better treatment response by our genetic makeup? So, wouldn't it be great if you came in, we did a genetic test, and I said, well, this is the treatment that will work best for you. And for the next patient, I can target their treatment based on their genetic makeup. But we are not there yet. A lot more research needs to occur. So back to our original question, my patient yesterday, hey doc, how did I get this macular degeneration? Well, at least in part, our genetic makeup contributes to this, along with a lot of other factors. Hey doc, will my children get this? Well, if you have a 1st-degree relative that has macular degeneration, yes, their risk is higher that they can develop it. So knowing this may help them understand, should eat that wonderful Mediterranean diet that we just heard about, or shouldn't be smoking. Should I or my family get genetic testing for macular degeneration? Well, there's actually kits out there where you can do genetic testing for macular degeneration. The problem is, I would not recommend it. No, not yet. We are not at a point in our knowledge of the genetics of macular degeneration that it is advantageous to get the genetic testing. Macular degeneration is very complex, and there's still a lot more we need to know. So if you get the testing done, we may not be testing for everything we need to do for macular degeneration. We also don't really know what to do with this data. If we have this information, what does that mean? Does it change the way we treat you, or does it change our understanding of your disease? At this point, not quite yet. So I would hold on that. So, gosh, you know, macular degeneration runs in my family. What can I do? Well, like we talked about, it's really important to get dilated eye exams if you have family members who are involved. So a lot of times we go into the eye doctor, they check you for glasses, they say, do you want dilation? Patient's like, no, don't like being dilated. And no one takes a really good look at the back of the eye. So if there's a risk of developing macular degeneration, it's important to get your eyes checked by a dilated exam, by your optometrist or your comprehensive ophthalmologist, if you know someone in your family has macular degeneration. Don't smoke. We know that's bad for our bodies. It's also bad for our eyes. So that's a big thing we can do. Keeping ourselves healthy, going out for those walks, getting that exercise, that makes a big difference. Diet, diet, diet. We've heard it 100 times today, but it's really true. Eating a very balanced diet, high in antioxidant vitamins, makes a big difference. Oops, we lost our data here. Hold on. Okay. Light exposure is bad, so make sure we wear sunglasses or a visor if you're going to be in the sun for a long period of times. Let me see if I can remember what my next slide is. Okay, so in conclusion, what we know, the genetics of macular degeneration is complex. Oops, there's several different genes that we know increase our susceptibility of developing macular degeneration. Certain genetic variants interact with our environment and may either be protective or make macular degeneration worse. Family members with first-degree relatives with macular degeneration are at increased risk, and a lot more research needs to occur to better understand how genetics plays a role in macular degeneration. Genetic testing for macular degeneration is not recommended at this time because I'm not sure if we can use it in an effective way to manage our treatment regimens. And there's more to come. And I personally want to thank those in the audience who participated in research to help us understand macular degeneration. Without people who are willing to be part of our clinical trials, we really can't advance our knowledge in that. So thank you very much. So thank you.